Well, as an ex-former, football coach, the games I couldn't stand, Steve, was like you. Too hot. Too hot. And so today, I'm thankful for many things. One is I'm not a football coach. Boy, those games are hot. When you're standing on the sunshine sideline. Woo, rough. But I am glad that we're here today. And one of the things I did really, for me, football coaching would have been impossible if I couldn't come to church Sunday morning after. I'm serious. Sunday morning after made all the difference. Because there was a sense of just grace, no matter what had happened the night before, and belonging, no matter what had happened the night before, that it was good. And I hope you're feeling this way too about when you come here on Sundays. That no matter what's happened during the week, no matter what happened yesterday, you've come to a place where you belong. You've come to a place where there's grace. You've come to a place where people are thankful for you showing up. And I just look around the room. I'm thankful that you came. This morning, I met Jerry. I'm thankful for you, Jerry, that you're here today. And so you have a place where you can come, and people are going to be thankful that when you show up. And all the time when I was coaching football, that wasn't the way my team felt. They weren't always thankful when I showed up, especially after a rough game. But after a rough game, I'm especially glad to be here with you. Thankful. I didn't even have a rough game yesterday. So today, we're going to hit this little mini-series, and I'm calling it, I don't know what to call it, but we're going to start out with this idea. It's messages from Paul to Timothy to Titus to us. Okay, where does that come from for me? Some of you may remember 2017. In January of 2017, that's when I started preaching here on a regular basis. And so, think about that. That was 2017. Later in 2017, the spring, a friend of mine who is the president of Africa Christian College in Eswatini now. It was Swaziland, so I'm going to call it Swaziland. Swaziland then asked me to come over and teach a class in Africa in September of 2017. And I thought, duh, of course. I want to go to Africa. He's paying my way, and I'm going to teach Bible there to some college students as well. And so Africa Christian College has about 70 kids, and they asked me to come to teach a 2-week Bible class to the freshman class, and they'd already had, because their school begins in January, they'd already had an intro to the New Testament class. It kind of spanned the whole background of the New Testament. And I was going to teach them their very first text study of the Bible. And for some reason, Africa Christian College decides that what they're going to teach first to these students after the intro lesson of the New Testament is 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus. And I'm thinking to myself, that's weird. I mean, really, come on, really, you got all these other options. You could have taught the Gospels, you could have taught Acts, or you could have taught Romans, or you could have taught a lot of different things, but they're deciding to kick off with 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus. And I'm like, oh, crazy. Well, I find out one of the reasons they're doing this is because in their way of thinking, I still would have done it different, but that's okay. Their reason for doing this is they have students from all over Africa. When we often say the word Africa, oh, you're from Africa, that we forget that it's a continent with lots of different cultures, lots of different languages, lots of different countries. So in my class alone, there were 7 different countries represented. And what they're thinking is the people in these classes are going to go out and most likely be leaders in the churches they go to. And so they're thinking that's what Paul was writing to, leaders Titus on the island of Crete, Timothy in the city of Ephesus, and Paul is writing letters to the leaders about how to do church. So that's where they started off. Needless to say, I was less prepared for that right off the bat than anything I'd ever taught before. Even though I'd taught Bible at ACU for 13 years, I still had not really ever taught in depth Timothy and Titus. So I went into a deep dive reading over and over and over and over. And there's a lot of things and they pop out at you. And there's a lot of instruction that pops out at you when you're reading through Timothy and Titus. But there's one thing that kind of is thematic. And it goes through the whole book. And especially in Titus, it gives this over and over and over. It says this, and Titus is really short. And what it is this. It is be devoted to doing good. And that sounds kind of simple and general, but it had more of a specific and important message than it may sound like. Devoted to doing good is the message of Timothy and Titus. And I want us to sort of break that out a little bit. Why? And do this question. Now look here, I'm going backwards. So the question for us, what does it mean to be devoted to doing good? And why is that important? Okay, what does it mean to be devoted to doing good? And why is that so important? Here's what I'm hoping for today. An insight into how good is. That sounds crazy. I want you to get an insight into how good is. Because one of the things we're going to do is kind of break down the word good. And good we already kind of know, but it's maybe more than what you think. So we're going to do this today by thinking about these three things. Okay? A report card, a concert crowd, and your favorite meal. So I want you to be thinking about these things even right now. I want you to think about your report card. Have you guys got a report card yet this year in school? Not? Okay, you know what I'm talking about then. A report card. How did you feel on the day you got report cards? How was this a good feeling? Was this an excited thing when you used to get your report card? Look, Kimberly and Kevin. Kimberly's going, yeah. Kevin's going, no. I want you to think report card. Okay, then I want you to think about a concert crowd. Some of you have been to some awesome concerts. Concert crowd, and then your favorite meal. And I want you to think about your favorite meal, the one that when you're done eating this meal, you feel just better than you can describe. Your favorite meal. And what we're really going to do is a little bit of a word study about three words. But to Timothy and Titus, Paul was in prison. And he's writing these letters to these two, was his kind of mentees. They were his disciples. Paul went all over the Mediterranean countries. He went all over the Middle East. And it says he did it, but he was going with a group of guys all along. And there was Titus and Timothy were two of his main guys. He had Barnabas, he had Silas, and he had Luke. Those were the main guys. There were some others as well, but those guys, Timothy, Titus, Silas, Luke, okay, and the other guys whose name I said, Barnabas. And Barnabas was kind of in and then out. But these guys were always there. And so in his last words to them, the message he tells them of all things is this: do good. And to me, that just doesn't sound like enough. Is that it? Is that all you got for me? Parting words. Do good. Wait, okay, well, so what? Maybe there's more to doing good than meets the eye. And so here's how we're going to do this. And first of all, important, find yourself in the story. This is going to add this slide to every sermon for the next little while. In this story, find where you fit in. Where does this story fit you and where do you fit in? This is like I said, Kevin and Kimberly just spit in just a minute ago. Obviously, Kevin, report card day, it was not good news. Kimberly it was. She's going to get a prize. He's not. Or he's going to get a prize of a different kind. So find yourself. Make this personal to you, okay? So here we go, first of all, with the report card. The report card is this, what I'm going to call it, it's the rank and position ladder. There's a rank and position you get when you get your report card. For instance, if you, let's say, one class, what's your very best class? What's your very best class that you're always good in this particular class? Say it out loud together right now. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, all over the board we were. But if you got an A, you were doing great, right? But if you had an A minus, you were okay. And if you got a B, now some of us, we're happy with B's. And there's a group of us in here who would say, I'm happy with the B. How many of you were not happy with the B? Go ahead and raise your hand. You were not happy with the B. Yeah, predictably so. Not happy with the B. I was very happy with the B. I happen to be happy with the B. But you get this rank, and that's your grade. You're doing good if you get a B. You're doing better than good if you're getting an A. Okay, that's right. And we have this kind of ranking system, and sometimes the word good is thrown into that ranking system, and we know it's good, better, best, right? And what's that called? If you're an English person, it's called, yeah, well, we know. I'm going to talk about superlatives in just a minute. So, here's the problem about the Bible. It wasn't written in English. And some of the words that get translated from Greek to English or from Hebrew to English don't carry with them the meat that the word has in Greek or English. And that's the way it is with the word good. Okay? And I'm going to talk to you about these three words: good, great, and perfect. Because if you're in the ranking system, the report card, as it were, then you think good, okay, that's a B, right? Great would be an A. But perfect would be an A plus, right? And you think these words mean they're on this ladder system. Well, that ain't it. So I want you to think of the word perfect really as it comes across in Greek, and Hebrew as well, but for sure, it means not just 100%. It means complete, like you finished your job. All right. So, for instance, if your job was to put the chairs out, and all the chairs were put out, then you would say that's perfect. But what if the chairs were put out, but they weren't put out well? Does that make sense? You could put the chairs all out, and in Greek that would be perfect because they're all here. But you might not have done it well. I can see that little scrunched up face. Oh, we're gonna try and clear this up in a minute. But so this is what we'll get to perfect more in a little bit. We're really focused on good, but I got to get rid of perfect first. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying, though? In Greek, if your job is to put the chairs out and you put them all out, let me help out like this. The concert crowd. Remember the concert crowd? You're going to a concert. I'm going to ask you, how was the concert? And your answer is going to be this. It was huge. It was a huge standing room only crowd that really connected with the band. All right. In this sentence, all three of the words perfect, great, and good, the Greek version, are used. Okay, so it was a huge crowd. All right, I'm going to come back to this, but I want to move to this slide. Great, the word great that's translated in English, in Greek though, it has to do with size. If you say he was a great man, you mean he was a big guy. He was a large person. If it was a great crowd, there was a lot of people there. Okay? So back to our concert. It was a huge, that means great. It was a great concert, means there was a lot of people there. All right? It was a standing room only. That means every seat was full. That means perfect. You get it? Now that might not mean what perfect means to us, But in Greek, this is what it meant. It means the room was full. It was a great, perfect, and then it says, and a crowd that really connected with the band. That means it was a good crowd. Now, if you were into a concert, which of these things for you are most important? You want it to be a good crowd that really connected with it. That's what good is. So when Paul is writing his buddies, the most important thing for you to be is devoted to good. That's a huge, see, I'm slipping back into English. That's a statement that's very important. All right. Okay, we're going to keep going here. Think about this. Size, quantity. Good has to do with top quality. Good is a quality comment. It's not about size. It's not about even being complete. It's about quality. This was my favorite meal. It wasn't because of all the many dishes. It was because of put it in your mouth and you felt satisfied. You weren't overfull. Some of times you get your favorite meal and you eat too much and then you're not feeling good. But this is the favorite meal and you eat just enough and you feel satisfied. It was a good meal. A great meal means there was a whole lot of it. It might have been all nachos, but that's okay. It was great. There was a lot of it. Maybe not your favorite meal, though. So we're going to go a brief run through the scriptures about the word good, okay? So hang in with me on this. Here's what Paul says to Timothy and Titus. He starts out in Titus, and this is where it caught me, my attention when I was doing that preparation for teaching the class. And I'm just going to read different scriptures, and you're not going to be able to catch up with them, but if you have a good Bible with a concordance, you can check me later. But in Titus, he used the word good 11 times, which is a lot of times in that short amount of space. He says this, that he wants the Christians to be hospitable, ones who love what is good. They love what is good, and they're self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. So remember, Paul's writing to his buddy, who's a younger version of him, who he has put on this island. He says, I want you to take care of all the churches on this island. And here's the instructions that are important for them. And here's the instructions that are important for them. The instruction is to be one who loves what is good. I want my people here in CCC, look around. This is what is important for us, that we love what is good. Or that women who are older, who are more mature, should be reverent, and they should be ready to teach the younger women what is good. We have women in here who are like that. They're very wise, right? Maybe they've been around a long time, and they teach younger women. Okay, I see you mumbling over there, Betty. You're talking about me. We teach the younger women what is good. Well, what are we teaching them? Well, we're teaching them what is good. We'll get to the details in just a minute. He says to be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, and to be kind. But here's the thing. He says kind, but it's the same word that's really most of the time translated good. While I'm at that, on the back of this page, you might have seen some writing. Here's the way the word good is translated. It's translated to mean this other thing besides good. This word is usually, I'll go ahead and say it in Greek. I don't like to do this. If Danny was here, I'd get Danny to say it because Danny can pronounce Greek words better than I can. So, this is my Texan version of two Greek words that are translated good. Agathon and kalon. Okay, there you go. These words always are translated good except when they're translated like this, because the English version's trying to get the essence of the word. Good. I want you folks to be good. And what does that mean? Well, it means kind. It means beautiful. It means useful. It means helpful. It means pleasant. It means faithful. It means excellent. It means to be fully trusted. It means to be generous. It means to speak well of others, speak good of them. It means to take heart, which means to be of good cheer. Or it means to have a clear conscience or a good conscience. See how this word is so important? that we should be this kind of person, a person who's devoted to all of those things. But the one word in Greek is good. Be good. It means be all of these things. When good is describing another word, these are some of the things it describes. There's good fruit. There's good deeds. There's good humans. There's good gifts. There's good pleasure. There's good people. I wonder what there's bad pleasure. Here's one of the things about good and the opposite. Sometimes you can understand a word by understanding what the opposite of it means. So great, the opposite of great would be small, okay? The opposite of perfect in Greek would be incomplete. The opposite of good means evil or bad. So when he says be good, devote yourself to being good, it also means devote yourself to being not evil. So there could be evil of all these things. There could be bad fruit. Now there could be this. Think about this. There could be great bad fruit. That means there's a whole bunch of bad fruit. Does that make sense now? You're kind of getting into the word here. Or there could be a cluster of grapes. And on every little stub, there's a grape. And we would call that a perfect cluster of grapes. But they could all be sour. So we'd say it's a bad cluster of grapes. It's a bad, perfect cluster of grapes. You understand how these different words are meaning different things for us? So, the book of Titus and Timothy are full of these, but so are the Gospels. Here's the way the Gospels use the word good. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the... You're going to say it out loud to me, right? When I do this, that means you fill in the blank. Right, okay. So, Matthew 13, there was seed falling on soil. And it refers to the people who hear and understand the word. Good soil. He said, teacher, what good thing must I do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus replied, why do you call me? There's only one who is. Yeah. He says, well done and faithful servant. After the woman anointed Jesus' feet with oil, he said, leave her alone. They're criticizing her for wasting that oil. And he says, leave her alone. She has done but actually in the NIV it says beautiful. But it's good. It's that same word, kalon. It's good. This is why when Titus and Timothy get the message from Paul, says, I want your people to be devoted to what is good. They realize that's a challenge. They realize that that's really important. And if I was going to teach my kids, what I would want to teach them is not to be perfect in terms of having a report card, but I want them to go to school and be good kids. I want them to be good kids. I want them to learn a lot. And I want them to have a good report card too. I want them to have a report card with A's. But if my kid is good and he has a B, I'm good with that. You with me? Kevin, maybe it was a C. We don't care. You're a good man. So here's more in the New Testament. Well, let's just go to the slide. This is the Luke 6, verse 45. Jesus is preaching, and he says this, good people bring good things out of the good stored up in their heart. What you think about that? Good people bring good things out of the good stored up in their heart. And the verse continues, and evil people bring evil things out of the evil stored up in their heart. So I want you to think about the things that we do sometimes. Which comes first again, the chicken or the egg? Well, in this case, the good stored up in my heart, the good that is in me, that's what makes me a good person. And being a good person, I do good things. Now, let's just say kindness instead, which is another way to translate the word. Kind people. It's important for us to be kind. Do you know some kind people in this room? I know some kind people in this room too, but I want to be more kind. Sometimes I ain't that kind. I'm not the kind of person that's kind sometimes. So he says, I want you to be devoted to being a kind person. Sometimes I can do my job. Oh, wait a minute. I'm a preacher now. I'm going back to thinking about a football coach. Sometimes I could be a football coach and do my job and not be kind. That's not a godly football coach doesn't do that. Because a godly football coach is devoted to being good first, which means kind. And then he's going to coach football too, in ways that can win. You know what? You can be a kind football coach and win. But a lot of football coaches can coach football well and win and not be kind. I know you're kind of wondering there, Steve, are you? Can a football coach really be kind and win? Well, can an accountant? I want to talk about an example of a good person. And then I'm going to ask you this question, and it's not on the sheet, but I want to ask this question. A lot of the time we take on the traits or characteristics of a person who is our role model. You with me on this role model idea? A person in your life who is a hero or a role model. And I want you to think about yours right now. If you can think of a role model. Some of the times I've chosen a role model. I can remember in 9th grade I chose one. He was a peer. But the most important thing to me at the time was how to fit in. I've moved from Seoul, Korea to Junction City to Fort Riley, Kansas. I was a 9th grader and I wanted to fit in. And so one of the guys who I thought was cool, and he had a lot of friends and especially cute girls, was a guy named James Godfrey. And I wanted to be just like him. James taught me how to smoke. James taught me how to cuss. Yeah. He was my role model. I got good at cussing. I got good at smoking. But I'd chosen the wrong role model. Sometimes, okay. The role model wow, this suddenly got harder. I'm going to try to talk about my grandfather, Sally's grandfather, Fred Farley. My grandfather was a doctor in San Saba, Texas. He moved there in the mid-20s. He was a doctor there for 50 years. Everybody in San Saba County, the counties around him, babies were delivered by either him or his partner, my great uncle. And so he knew, he fixed their broken bones. He treated their illnesses. He delivered their babies. But he was more than just a good doctor. He was a good man. He was also the kind of person who people in town would ask for financial advice, even though he was a doctor. Farmers would ask him for farming advice, even though he was a doctor, not a farmer, because he was just, that kind of guy you could trust. They would ask him about marital and child-raising questions, even though he was a doctor. He was just that kind of guy. But one experience, and when my cousins grew up in the town, their last name was Farley, like his. And so they would introduce themselves, and you would know that was, are you related to, I'm Jim Farley, my cousin would say. And the people would say, oh, are you related to Dr. Farley? Yeah, he's my grandfather. And then the stories would come. Well, he did this for me, or he did this for my mom, or he did this for over and over, just the stories of him being a good person. Not just a good doctor, but a good person. But the kicker is the one he told me about 10 or 12 years ago. My cousin told me this story. My grandfather died in 1980. About 10 or 12 years ago, a man called my cousin and said, I need to bring you something. What is it? He said, I really can't tell you on the phone. I need to bring you something in person. Will you be in your office at such and such a time? My cousin lived in Lubbock, Texas. He said, sure, I'll be here. Bring it, whatever. My cousin sells insurance. And so he did. He's retired now. But a man came to his office, and he walked in. He sits down. He says, I have something to give you. It's an envelope, but first I need to tell you a story. He says, my mother told me I had to bring this to you in person. I couldn't mail it. I couldn't Venmo it. It's some money. He said, what happened is 50 years ago, your grandfather drove through a hailstorm on a dirt road to a farmhouse out in the woods of San Saba County and delivered a baby. Delivered my mom's baby. She didn't have money to pay for it, and he said, that's okay. He delivered the baby about 4 o'clock in the morning. And again, this was like in the early 50s that this would have happened. And he said, what I have brought to you, he says, that baby was me. And my mom passed away a couple of weeks ago. And in her deathbed, she said, I need you to take this to the closest relative of Fred Farley and hand it to him face to face. And it was $50 in an envelope. That was worth a lot more than $50 to all of us. Because my grandfather was just this kind of person that instilled this kind of trust and hope and favor in others around him. You'd say, that is a good man. This is what Paul says. I want Titus and Timothy to be devoted to doing good. Be devoted to being the kind of person. And one of the things in Titus and in Timothy, he said, I want you to make the faith attractive to outsiders. Right? So much of the time now, the faith means Christianity is not attractive to outsiders. So I want you to live lives, be devoted to be doing good, because that will be attractive to outsiders, to people who don't know Jesus. Live a life that's attractive to outsiders. So the question of the day, what does doing good look like in your world? I have two other questions. One is, have you chosen a good role model? If you grow up to be just like your role model, will you be good? This is me in 9th grade. I became pretty close to, I'm actually a better version of my role model, James Godfrey. I was a better cusser and better smoker than him by the end of 9th grade. You know, you're gonna be the person that you model your life after. That's the role model. Choose a good one. Maybe you should choose a different one than you have now, even. That's a choice you can make. But the other thing is, are you increasing in these things? These are some things I think, for me to be a good person in my world today, I would want to be increasing in kindness. I'm a relatively kind person, and what does that mean? It means I can grow. There's a place for me to grow. These are growth places for me. I want to be increasing in forgiving others. I want to be increasing in patience. These are things I can do because I want to be devoted to doing good. I can be more unselfish. I can be better at serving others. And this is the combo. I want to be better at being gently bold. Whoa. I want you to take a cup of boldness and a cup of gentleness and mix them together. That's what I want to be. Can you be that? Can you be gentle and bold? That's what I want to be. I want to be gentle and bold. And ultimately, I want to be a person devoted to good. So we're going to stand and sing and think about these things. I have a closing thought in just a minute.